Hook's Newsmaker starts now.
Thanks for joining us on Newsmaker. Tonight, you will hear from one of the three Republican candidates for governor, Karrin Taylor Robson. 2 weeks ago, we had David Schweikert on this program. Andy Biggs will be on soon, and we have reached out to Katie Hobbs as well. In the second half of the program, we will talk with Sarah Porter, a water expert at ASU, about where Arizona stands on the waterfront. Are we really in a water crisis? But we begin my conversation tonight with Republican candidate for governor, Karrin Taylor Robson. Good to see you.
Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Why did you decide to do this again?
You know, I love this state and I want to make Arizona strong again. And we currently have a governor who has taken us from #1 in the nation just in job growth, #1 in the nation to number 47. And that's just been in a few short years. When you take your eye off the ball, the people of Arizona suffer, and I want to get back to the top.
People know you, of course, for running last time, 2022. You lost in the primary to Kari Lake. That was a little bit bruising. It was a little bit ugly. But you have a long history with Robson Communities, obviously your husband and your company. What else should people know about your background as you kind of fill in the bio?
Yeah. Well, I've been a business executive for my career, my entire career. Graduated from Arizona State University 3 times. The last time as with
they got a lot of your money.
Right. With a law degree, and I have been a business executive, and I've built things from the ground up. I have worked on some of the best projects in the state of Arizona, bringing jobs to Arizona, building places for people to live, and I'm very, very proud of that. And for the record, I've had my own career. My husband has had his own career.
Right.
So
do you have to beat that back a little bit, that you're married to Ed and people think, he's funding all this and that, this is just a lark on your part? I think that is a kind of a perception that I'm sure at town halls you have to kind of demystify.
Well, actually, it doesn't come up that much. I am so proud of my husband and what he has built and what he has done, and he is very proud.
And you've been part of that, by the way.
No, well, I have not.
I thought you were general counsel or did some of the stuff.
I've never been part of Robson Communities. That's my husband's. I have my own business, and I built my own business, and I have worked in the real estate industry as well, but we've never worked together.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, thank you. I stand corrected. Politics is in your DNA. Your father was Carl Kanasic. I covered him at the Arizona legislature. Senate president, powerful guy, very effective.
Yes.
Did that kind of spawn the interest? Because then you go on and become student body president at, what was it? Mountain View High School, then Arizona State.
Right. Well, my parents, they modeled for us, #1, hard work, and they instilled in us a very strong work ethic. But they also modeled what it means to give back to your community, and be grateful for being born in the greatest country ever. And part of that privilege of being born in this country is public service, and they modeled it. They walk the walk, and so myself and my siblings, we've all given back to our communities in various different ways, elected office being one of them. And so I've had the blessing of working and building my career and raising my kids, and now it's my time to give back.
You grew up in Mesa.
I did.
So that's kind of steeped in your DNA as well. When you look at kind of the playing field, there's a thought out there, and pollster Mike Noble has expressed it, he's one of them, that Schweikert may pull more votes from Biggs than from you. Did you welcome Schweikert's entry into the race, and do you think it helps you in some way?
Well, I welcome anybody into the race. It's, it's come on in, as I say. The water's nice. Come on in, and it allows for very robust competition. And I'm a competitor. I'm a fierce competitor. I like to win, and I will do everything I can. I will work hard every single day, not just during the campaign, but when I'm governor, I will work hard every day for Arizonans. And I want to compete, with other states. I want, I'm tired of, being the bottom of the barrel when it comes to public education, where Governor Katie Hobbs has put us. We're going to compete and we're going to win. And the same goes in this campaign. Whether I have, 1 opponent or 5 opponents, I will compete hard and I will earn the votes of the people of Arizona.
Let's talk a little bit about that. that because you've talked a lot about how job creation was up under Ducey and now it's down.
Yes.
Is it really 49th?
Well, 47th is what I've seen, and the Common Sense Institute put out a report showing that we are now 47th.
How could that possibly be in a high-growth, low-tax state that seems to be attracting people from everywhere?
Yeah.
How can this be happening?
Well, that's a good question, but I can tell you that you need a governor that acts as a chief executive officer that is working every day, competing with the other states, competing for business, and also growing businesses right here in Arizona. We need, we've got young entrepreneurs that want to stay here. They don't want to go to Silicon Valley. They want to build and grow their businesses here. And so you need a governor who is willing to help nurture that environment, eliminate red tape, keep our taxes low so that they can thrive in this state and our businesses can grow. You
worked for Doug Ducey. So is he kind of your North Star when it comes to governors?
Well, I didn't technically work for him, but he had certain things he wanted to accomplish. We have the lowest flat income tax in America. We have universal school choice, and those are two things that are very, very important to me. To put parents in charge of education and to make sure government gets out of the way. He had a moratorium on new regulations, which is something I will do as well. You gotta, and that's what I've spent my career doing is, cutting through red tape, cutting through bureaucracy so that people can thrive. And so I respect that from him, and I plan to do the same thing. Get government out of the way so each individual Arizonan can achieve their God-given potential. What
do you think is happening with education right now? You mentioned it. And we have this curve now of declining enrollment, and it's been going on, I think, since '09. And I'm not sure it's coming back. People are not having kids like they used to, or as many.
Yeah.
And now the traditional public schools, there are other choices out there.
Right. And I believe, parents should have choice. Right. I have 4 kids, and each one of my kids had a different educational pathway: public school, public charter school, private school. And every parent should have the ability to make those choices for their kids. But all of our options should be good options. And right now, our public school system was just ranked 50th in the nation. That's unacceptable. Going back to jobs and the economy, businesses, if they're going to invest in this state or move to this state, they don't want to go to a state that's ranked 50th in the nation. So we have to do a better job in public education than we are today.
When you were here 3 years ago, this was right after the 2022 election. And I'm sure you remember, and it'll probably come up in the campaign. We talked about President Trump, and I asked you, at that point he was facing legal trouble. He was dead in the water and looked like dead man walking politically. And I asked you about him. Take a look at this from this program. Do you think now that Donald Trump is a drag on the Republican Party?
I do. Somebody said, and I like the analogy, there's fashion do's and fashion don'ts. Trump used to be a fashion do, and now overnight he's become a fashion don't.
Trump was a fashion do, and now he's become a fashion don't. Would you like to revise that statement?
Well, President Trump has proven everyone wrong. And he is back. He's stronger than ever. He's, traveling around the world, solving world wars all over the place and conflicts. And he knows how to supercharge an economy. And so President Trump, he got the endorsement of over 70 million Americans. And he is doing what he got elected to do. Americans elected him to close our border, and that's what he did. That's one of the most important things, in particular in Arizona, which is a border state. And so I will tell you, I supported President Trump in 2016, 2020, and 2024. And sometimes things get taken out of context. But President Trump he encouraged me to run. He's given me his...
He personally encouraged you to run.
From the stage last year.
I remember. Yes. And so how do you explain this quirky situation we find ourselves in where you've got his endorsement, but so does Andy Biggs, your opponent in the Republican primary? Yeah,
President Trump has done dual endorsements in the past. He did it right here in Arizona in a congressional race. And you know what, it allows us to talk about our differences in the primary campaign, and that's exactly what we'll do. Just like President Trump, I'm a business person. I'm not a career politician, and we can look and see where that's gotten us as a state. We currently have a career politician running the 9th floor, and we need a business executive. And so this allows me to talk about that experience.
Would you consider yourself more of a Ducey, McCain Republican rather than Trumpian or MAGA?
I consider myself an American first conservative. I believe our rights come from God and not the government. You know, I am an ardent supporter of the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, Fifth Amendment, all the constitutional protections that we're all afforded in this country. And so, you know, President Trump, of course, right now, President Trump is the right man for the job to bring America back. And look how quickly he's done it. He hasn't even been in office for a year. He's brought America back.
He said at the outset he thought he could get the economy really rolling by bringing energy prices down. Can we talk just quickly about energy in this state?
Yes.
Do you think we've got to really take a hard look at another nuclear plant? Or, I mean, the modular reactors are great. If you can do it, it's still a little, we're still trying to figure that out. Where do you think we're going with that?
We are going to have a mix of all of the above. It's going to be keeping some of our base load generation online longer than originally planned. It's about bringing new natural gas generation online. And it's going to be about SMRs, the small modular reactors, which will come online. There's, you know, talk of an SMR coming online on a United States Air Force base yet this year. And if that happens, then the regulatory approvals for commercialization will be right behind it. And so all of these things are going to be imperative to come online. The President's Energy Dominance Council and his executive order on unleashing American energy is certainly about keeping prices down, but it's also about national security.
One more before we let you go. Water. Now, I have a different view on this than a lot of people. I don't believe we're in a water crisis. We are in a perpetual water challenge in this state. But our planners did a heck of a job. And I've flown those reservoirs, and it's a masterful plan. Do you share that view?
I agree with you. You know, we are in a desert, and we're in the middle of a drought, so we always have to be mindful of our water. But the people that came before us, you know, 50, 60 years ago, did a masterful job of planning. We use less water today than we did 70 years ago.
That is exactly right. And nobody believes it when we were 1 million people and now we're 7 million.
That's right.
Because we've traded ag land for urban land. Or ag land for urban land.
And we've done incredible things when it comes to conservation. But we can't take our foot off the gas. We have to continue to do that so that 70 years from now, people can look back and say we were good stewards as well.
Karrin Taylor Robson, good to see you.
Thank you.
Republican candidate for governor of the state of Arizona. We didn't even get into who your lieutenant governor might be, because we're going to be voting on that this time.
Yes. Yeah, well, there's a lot of people who want that job.
I think you're right. Okay, we're back on Newsmaker in just a moment. Welcome back. Water. It is our lifeline in the desert, and a lot of people are worried that Arizona is going to eventually dry up and blow away. It's a gross overstatement, but surprisingly, many people believe this. For some rationality, I present to you Sarah Porter. She is the director of the Kyle Center for Water Policy at Arizona State University's Morrison Institute for Public Policy. That is a long title.
Sorry, I didn't make it up.
I know you didn't.
But it's important, I think, because the Kyle Center for Water Policy is a nonpartisan think tank that focuses on water policy as it impacts Arizona.
Yeah, and John Kyle was so instrumental in this entire debate, so he's a perfect person that it's named after. Okay, Sarah, in the intro, we talked about Arizona drying up and blowing away. When you hear that in the East Coast press and you hear people talking about that, what is your reaction?
My reaction is that they need to understand better what Arizona's water resources are, how they're being used, and what is the future of those resources. That is, of course, it is wrong. Arizona is not going to dry up and blow away. But we do have some water challenges. And in the immediate future, we are looking at less water being available than we have been enjoying in the last couple decades.
Yeah, And the stat that we've talked about before that just blows my mind, even in the midst of a historical drought in the Southwest, Arizona uses less water now than it did 62 years ago. We were 1 million people, now we're 7 million people. How is that possible?
Yeah, and in that time, our economy has grown over 20 times. It's possible because of a variety of factors. One of those factors is that we have converted a lot of land that was used for agriculture to using it for other purposes, like growing cities. And acre for acre, cities and much of industry uses a lot less water than agriculture, acre for acre. So we've kind of reallocated land uses and had a big savings in water. But it's also because across the board, water use is more efficient in our homes, in manufacturing operations, in agriculture. We're getting more from the drops of water that we use. So we're just able to do more with the water supplies we have.
It strikes me that the biggest concern probably in Arizona, frankly, is not surface water, but groundwater, because surface water only makes up 31% of our water here. Groundwater just under 70%. That number surprised me.
Yeah, I guess I would, as I understand it, the numbers break a little differently. I agree with you that groundwater needs to be considered in a very different way, but the way it breaks is somewhere around 40% of the water supply for the state is groundwater. And then surface water, and we have two types. We have Colorado River water and we have water from in-state rivers. Those are like, somewhere between 20-something and 30%. And then an increasingly important part of water supply for Arizona is effluent, is water that was put in the wastewater treatment system to be treated for a new use. The thing about groundwater, to your point, is that unless we have very rigorous rules around how it's used, groundwater is non-renewing in the state. We pump it out much faster than nature replenishes it. So we need to manage groundwater with that in mind. You don't want to grow a forever city on a supply of water that's going to be used up.
Is the groundwater concern mainly because of agriculture, farms, pumping it?
For the most part, we have this legacy of people coming out and settling Arizona and developing farms and drilling wells and using groundwater. Not in every part of the state. Along the main stem of the Colorado River, like in Yuma, that farming relies on surface water. But most of the other farming in the state relies on groundwater, and it is the largest source of unreplenished groundwater use. Agriculture is.
It seems the debate right now is over Colorado River water. That's CAP. And I was looking at the numbers, tell me if I'm wrong here, of the states that use Colorado River water. California's got the biggest chunk, 27%. Colorado's got 23%. Arizona has 17%. And we kind of think we're on the short end of the stick, but then you add Utah, Wyoming, New Mexico, Nevada, and Mexico, which get CAP water. They are all of those are under 10%. So we're third in line. We're trying to get a bigger chunk. What is the reality on the ground that may happen?
Yeah. So we have those percentages that you just mentioned are the apportionments that were worked out beginning in 1922 when the 7 states came together and formed a compact. In 1944, the United States entered a treaty with Mexico for Mexico's share of water. And right now what we're seeing on the Colorado River is that there aren't the supplies in the river that people counted on when that compact was formed. So there's not enough water to meet the water that is essentially allocated out of the river. And we have had, starting in 2007, a series of consensus-driven agreements about what do we do? How do we have shortage? Who gets less water? Those agreements expire at the end of this year, and the 7 states have been working hard to come to a new agreement on, again, not about getting more water, but how do we share less water? How do we spread out the pain of shortage? There's a good chance that by the deadline for coming up with an agreement, which is next month, there won't be an agreement, and we have deep uncertainty after that. Very likely we'll have the federal government taking action on its own, and we'll have litigation challenging those actions.
Yeah, and that was my next question. If the administration gets involved, call me cynical, but I think given the makeup of the Trump administration, they may look at states like Arizona positively and may want to stick it to California, because President Trump has said over and over California is wasting water, and too much of their water rolls right into the Pacific Ocean. They're not capturing it. So my sense would be, in that kind of fight with the Trump administration, Arizona may come out pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, you're more of a political expert than I am, but I think you're pointing out that without an agreement, there could be a basis for decision that is, that has never really been part of how the river's managed. And even if there's an outcome that's good for, that like preferences or advantages Arizona, I'm not sure that it would be as helpful as it might seem, because we would still have this uncertainty. Then what happens next year? What happens if a different Congress is elected? What happens if other political changes happen? And the problem with all that kind of uncertainty in the, let's say in the next 3 or 4 years, is that the people who manage water need much longer term certainty over what's happening with water. If you're a city, you don't go from year to year finding the water for the portfolio, of water that you treat and deliver to taps. You need a very long-term supply. If you're a farmer, you develop a multi-year crop plan and go get financing for it. If you're an industry, you need assurance of long-term water supplies in order to support the investments that you're making for industry. So the outcome that you outlined might happen, but it doesn't solve our problems.
When you look down the line, we had a story this week, unbelievable technology. This guy, and they're using it in hospitals, they are extracting water out of the air. Mm-hmm. This, you start to wonder what technological advances, and you talked about effluent, which is basically treating water that we've already used once and recycling it. Could we start to kind of, with technology, maybe blunt this worry about water out here?
We absolutely can. And I love that you are looking at atmospheric water harvesting. My colleague at ASU, Dr. Paul Westerhoff, is one of the leaders who developed the first International Atmospheric Water Harvesting Conference. ASU has spun off some technology that's some of the leading technology for atmospheric water harvesting that's being deployed in places where it makes sense. Maybe, I'm not sure how far we can go with that technology, but that and other technologies can be part of the solution. The challenge with any of those things tends to be the cost.
Yeah.
Right now we enjoy really inexpensive water, and there's going to be some sort of give and take, some trade-offs before we settle on much higher cost water.
Right. You even think of Palo Verde. These nuclear plants use a lot of water, but they came up with this idea: we're going to use treated effluent to cool the towers. Mm-hmm. Brilliant.
Yeah. In fact, the city of Phoenix is scoping a project to take treated effluent and send it to a treatment facility that will treat that effluent all the way up to drinking water standards.
Wow.
That could reduce Phoenix's reliance on Colorado River water by 50%. So that's technology that could be a huge solution in terms of the city's water resilience, but of course it's not cheap. It'll cost billions of dollars.
Well, we've got some things on the horizon that are promising. I really appreciate it, Sarah, and keep us up to date on the developments with CAP. That's a huge story.
Will do.
Okay, Sarah Porter, director of the Kyle Center for Water Policy at Arizona State University's Morrison Institute for Public Policy. Sarah, thank you. We're back in a minute on Newsmaker.